Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Grant Talks Funny Bits. I have Barry Jones. He's on the phone now. We're just sorting out his computer and his technical side of stuff. We've got a couple of people here. Oh, Wayne Childs. Hi Wayne, how are you guys? I hope you're doing well down in the beautiful part of the United Kingdom. We have a great show lined up for you today. I'm just talking to Barry now. Hang on 1 second, camera. There we go. He should be clicking in and joining us any second now. Each week we have a technical issue. This week, you may have noticed already, apart from the lack of our guest at this moment in time, it is, here he is. I can see him. He's just screen now. There he is. Perfect. Each week we have a technical issue. The technical issue this week is my shirt. I've been running around all day sorting out various different bits and bobs and forgot to iron my shirt. So when I came to pick it up early on, it was an absolute mess. So I'm going with the T-shirt, the Miami look tonight. Speaking of the Miami look, tonight's guest is one of the few people not only works the UK and Ireland market, but is also hugely successful in the US, which is going to be great and interesting to find out the differences and the nuances between the two different audiences. Because as a British hypnotist, and other British hypnotists will say the same, is we believe that those American guys, they're easy to hypnotize. That's the easy market, is that. Whereas the British market, it can be a bit of a challenge. So if you've got any questions for Barry, then please put them up in the comment section and we will bring them up. We've got a couple of hellos whilst we're there. Brian Glenn says, hey up, mister. There we go. Steve Moss is here. Hi, Steve. Steve is an absolutely great guy. So I'm going to play my usual clip. And then after that, trust me, we have Barry Jones waiting in the green room ready to go. Get your questions ready for tonight's guest. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please bash your keyboard, make some noise. Please make him feel very welcome. Tonight's guest, Barry Jones. Let me just take it off so it's not. Oh, 1 second. Hey. There we go. All right, I can see you now, Barry. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
There we go. I just checked with everybody. Oh, you look very comfortable, Barry.
I've
I'll
got
say
my
that.
flying jacket on.
Fantastic. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I just checked with everybody watching. Guys, can you all hear me okay? Because sometimes we have issues with sound. There we go. Hi, Grant. Hope you're both well. Alana Jennings says she's definitely commenting on the jacket. Is that a new jacket? Yep. Alana Jennings says good evening. And Jason Simmons is here as well. So all our usual superstars are here. So, Barry, first and foremost, you know, you've worked both the US and the UK market. Where are you right now? Which country are you in?
I'm in the UK right now.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Been back about 5 years ago to look after my mum. And she called me up and she said, could I come back? She was having problems with the sight. And so I came back, and I wasn't able to go back to the States. She had a long-term, she had basically dementia and Alzheimer's as well. So it was a full-time 24 hours a day looking after her for the past 5 years. So
it's difficult, the challenges that you face as a performer on the road, and sometimes the real world pulls us back for what's important for us.
Yeah.
So I was looking at your bio, and you've got a fantastic bio. What first brought you to stage hypnosis?
Well, I went out to the States on an organization called Bunicamp, which was done from this country, British University's North America Club. And they pay for your flight out there, and you go and work on a summer camp.
Yes.
And so I did that after university. I was at Newcastle. I did my teaching degree there. And got out there and worked on the summer camp. And then about a year later, they invited me to go back to run the camp, the whole aquatic program. And so I went back that year, and then I ran the aquatic program, the swimming program, for about 700 kids. And then I hitched across to California, and I got offered a teaching job at one of the universities there. Quite literally, I walked into the department, And I said, do you have any teaching positions? And they offered me a teaching position at the university.
Nice.
And so I taught there. And while I was teaching, I was also taking part in ultra endurance events. And I did the Ironman triathlon in Hawaii, the original one in Hawaii. And during my training, I was drifting in and out of like a trance situation. I didn't quite understand it. I had studied sports psychology when I did my master's degree. So I understood kind of what was going on. And then a year later, I did another ultra endurance event, which took me 21 hours, which was in Death Valley.
Wow.
And we had to cycle 137 miles, get off our bikes and run up to the top of Mount Whitney and back down again, which was total elevation climb of about 23,000 feet. And it was 125 degrees temperature.
Wow.
So it was extreme. And I drifted into a 4-hour loss of time to deal with the actual race. There was 75 of us started, and there was 2 of us finished. I didn't finish first, but I finished second. So, and then I became fascinated by this trance state that I drifted into, and I found out that University San Diego, California, had a course in clinical hypnosis, and it was taught at the medical school, and it was taught as an adjunct for physicians and health practitioners that wanted to use hypnosis rather than traditional methods. So I was teaching health education, so I was allowed to take the course. The prerequisite was a master's degree before you could even get onto the course. I took the course, and some of my students found out that I was doing hypnosis and asked me if I would do a show in the dorms. And I figured if I could hypnotize one person, which I was easily able to do, then yeah, I would do it. So my first show was about 300 people, my very first show, university show, and word got around, and it did not pay me to stay teaching at university any longer. I was just passing away too many high-priced gigs. And within about a year, I was up to about 200 shows a year. So that's how I got into hypnosis.
And I think, especially from a performance side of things as well, getting those high numbers in of shows is so important. Because, especially, I mean, for all of the new guys starting out now, the issue is if they're doing one show once a week, by the time you've done your show and polished it, it's time for the next one. Whereas when you're bashing them out, it just smooths it out so much more now. And I do think that's going to be a massive challenge going forward for new people entering into the industry, is actually getting that stage time and polishing the kind of nuances.
Yeah, the actual hypnosis that you know as well as I do is incredibly easy.
Yeah.
You know, you could train a monkey and they could go and hypnotize somebody quite literally. But it's the subtle nuances and that make all the difference. And when I moved into the fair industry, you know, we were doing 2 to 3 shows a day, a month at a time.
Yeah.
You know, so you just really get to develop and to iron out little things and introduce things. So
yeah. I mean, the fair market, it's not something we have in the UK. We've got, you know, as you know, we have very strange restrictions when it comes to hypnosis. But I mean, that's a massive part of the American market, like high schools and fairs.
Massive.
What's the difference between the two shows? I mean, obviously we can't hypnotize people under the age of 18 here in the UK. But what do you do differently for a high school show? What are the kind of ages that are involved in that, and how is that different from a fair show?
The fairs and the high schools, the material you use for them I use exactly the same material. They're no different.
Yeah.
I really don't change my material much, regardless whether it's corporate or high school or university. So I tend to stick more on the squeaky clean side.
Yeah.
So there isn't much difference in material. When I'm doing fairs, I tend to switch shows around to introduce more material, because you tend to get the same people would come back to see the second show. So you want to create a different, show materials, but the not much difference. And when you're looking at the age groups, you do a small fair, and the small fairs, you get kids that are 12, 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
And, they come up, and there is no age restriction. So it's up to you as a performer. I typically don't take kids unless they're over 14 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my choice. But sometimes at these fairs, if you're doing a real small fair, you've got nothing more than little kids that are going to volunteer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's, it's a struggle.
So what's the history of the high school show in America? I mean, I got told, is it post prom? After the prom, they put on a hypnosis show.
It's more traditional in terms of you've got schools that will have you come in during the term time, and you'll do an assembly. So they're doing early exams, or they're doing late exams or something. So they'll have a hypnotist come in mid-afternoon to do a show. So that's the first one. So you've got the whole year to do shows and to market throughout the year to do that. Then you've got your prom market, which is in April. And then you've got your high school graduation, which is May and June time. So, that's a big chunk. I mean, you can make enough money in the summertime where you don't really have to work for the rest of the year.
Nice. Sorry, just a quick hello. Jason Nobby Morgan says, knockety knock knock. Jason's here every week, but he's arrived late, so hopefully he's got a note from his mum for why he's late. Like I said earlier in your intro, and it's something that especially us British hypnotists band around, we kind of say like the Americans have it easier because of the prom market, because of the fair market, and because stage hypnosis is introduced to American teenagers at such a young age that they're seeing hypnosis shows at schools, at fairs. They're more open to it, whereas a British audience, as you know, we can be quite cynical. Are Americans easier to hypnotize than British people?
I wouldn't say so. I just think that Brits are more skeptical, and they will question it a lot more. So yes, I would say that. But I think it's more of a socialization process. If Brits had more of a chance to be socialized by seeing more shows, I think they would not be as skeptical.
Yeah.
But Brits typically are anyway, regardless.
Yeah. And how does the humor translate? Or do you, because you've worked it so much, maybe your show is kind of kept in the middle of that. But, again, I was always a big believer that Americans don't kind of get irony or sarcasm. How does the humor translate between the two markets?
Maybe it's because I've introduced myself slowly and integrated into both directions. It's difficult for me to really say, but I've never had a problem in either markets. So I tend to be more dry, with my sense of humor. So I guess it's really an individual thing, to be honest with you. I feel as though that my audiences in Ireland are very much like the audiences in the States. Yes.
Yeah. Again, they seem to be the hypnosis wedding market seems to be big in Ireland at the moment. Yes. And again, they do seem more open to it.
Very open. Yes. Very open. Great audiences out there.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think the problem we're having in England, especially so much, is we do have a lot of we all get tarred with the same brush. So if somebody sees a dull, mediocre show, they think that all stage hypnosis shows are the same about that. And it was kind of part of the thing about this show, is to introduce tips and tricks for performers to be, to deliver a better show.
Yeah.
What was, and I always like to ask people, because hypnotists, we all love to talk about our great victories. But over the years, I'm sure you've had some shows that have been a challenge. And I'm sure there's one that stands out more than ever. So what would you say is either I'm not saying worst show, but what show did you find offered the most challenges for you?
It was a small corporate show. It had been suggested by a kid that had seen me at a high school graduation. It was his graduation. So he told his parents, and the parents wanted me to come and do a 60th birthday party. And they were Asian. And I said to the kid, I said, you've only got 12 people. And I said the 60, the average age is 60 and above. And I said, I really suggest that you may get a magician or something else. I didn't want to deal with it. But he insisted, absolutely insisted. So, they flew me out, put me in a hotel and paid me what I wanted. And I was supposed to start at 7 o'clock. 2 hours later, we still hadn't started. On each table, there was a bottle of scotch. That's all. And by the time they got to my start, every single bottle of scotch on these tables was finished. They were completely and utterly wasted. I think 50% of them had problems with English as a second language.
Oh, wow.
So besides being drunk and then me trying to get subjects up there, which I did do, including his son. I think I had 3 people, including his son. His son went out like that. And I thought, okay, I'll call one person. And the 2 other ones, they could hardly sit in their seat. They were falling out of their seats, so drunk. And so I did like a one-man show, and the father freaked out because his son was doing these things that I was telling him to do, and stopped the show.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that was one of my worst experiences.
Brian Glenn's got a great question as well. It says, what kind of typical skits would you do at a school gig?
I think one of the things that I do, I try and make it as interactive as possible. And one of the things that I do is introduce up-to-date music. And I have them be their favorite singers. Or what I'll do is I'll say, tell me who your favorite singer is. Or, no, what I'll do, sorry. I'll play music, and it's up-to-date music, and then I'll say, any of you can tell me who the singer is. And if they put their hand up, I know I've got a person that can do potential vocal.
Yeah.
I'll then have about 5 songs. I'll get 5 singers, and then I'll have them, I say on the count of 3, when they hear the music, you are that singer, you will get up and sing. And then they sing. So that is one of my favorite interactive ones.
Yeah. So the person that knows that song as well, that's a great way of filtering out. So I know sometimes we can go, on the count of 3, you'll believe you are this person.
Right.
And that person doesn't know who that artist is. So you kind of left with that dilemma. By doing it that way, that's a really great way of filtering them out.
And I started off the other way, and then pretty soon figured it out. I need to have control over my show. So, I know what the kids like and what music they like, and that was it.
Yeah. Brilliant. No, anybody watching, that is a great tip in itself. That is. So yeah. when we talk about the worst show, I've had shows that I'd like to forget, and I've shows that I bore my friends with telling them about. What's your show that you, when you visualize that show, what's the show that is the highlight of been for your career so far?
Well, we'll go back one step, because we'll look at the ridiculousness of sound systems. So we'll jump from one extreme to another, because this was another extreme of bad and then good. So I'm doing a show in Oregon. It's called Main Street Cowboys. It's one of the biggest rodeos they have out there. And they shut down Main Street and they put stages all along. And they have shows going all along Main Street. And one of them, of course, is me doing hypnosis. So in my rider, I put down sound system, microphone, etc.
Yeah.
And first show, I get there, and there's some little kids on the stage before me, and they're doing the little dance routine and stuff. And there's a little ghetto blaster, and attached to it is like a pink microphone. And so my show's going to start like in 10 minutes. So I said, there's about 300 people waiting. I said to the organizer, my sound system, oh, it's there. And they point this little ghetto blaster and this little pink microphone. And the next 3 days, it was 3 days I had, 3 days of 2 shows a day, I had to use this little ghetto blaster.
Wow.
And they kept on saying to me, we'll get you a sound, we'll get you a sound system, we'll get you a sound system. So it became a laughing story whenever I got there, and I'd say to the crowd, because the crowd already knew that I was bitching and complaining about the sound system. So it just became a laughing point. And eventually I just used the ghetto blaster and used my voice. My voice was completely thrashed.
Yeah.
So then I moved from there, after doing 3 days there, to Utah, and I was at the state fair, and I was the headliner there on the main stage. Sound check took half an hour to do the sound check. I had $1,000 microphone. Nice. I had my own trailer.
Nice.
And it was my biggest audience. I had nearly 4,500 people.
Oh, nice.
And I had more people than any other headliner there, you know, during the fair. So it was huge. Sorry, my email popped up for some reason. Shut this down. So that was probably the highlight with having that amount of people. And
I must say, it's one of the nice things about what we do is, you know, one night or one performance, you could be on a massive, beautiful stage in a beautiful theatre where you treat like royalty. And then the next night you can be in the disabled toilets with a dodgy sound system. And I think stage hypnosis, especially in the UK market, has a tendency that just when you start to believe your own hype, you get put into a show that teaches you that you're not all that. So yeah, I've had some lessons over the years as well.
Yeah, so. But the sound system issue is always a problem, regardless.
I think sound is so important for a stage hypnosis show, more important than what people kind of pay attention to. People will put up with not being able to see clearly, but if they can't hear properly, they'll just shut off and talk to their friends. There's nothing worse than, I mean, in America you fly to different venues, but I tend to drive to most of mine. But I always, even if they've told me there's a band on, there's an amazing sound system, etc., I always make sure I have a spare PA system in the boot of the car, just because I want to make sure that my microphone works. I've got spare cables, and if all goes wrong, I've got a spare sound system that I can run in and do. And I'm sure you're the same. You've learned over the years, you've got to have adapters, spare cables, spare this, because if you've got a cable that breaks, and they do break, that's the show. So yeah,
prepare. Yeah, I've got backups for everything. I've got backups for backups. And, I've got the weirdest looking adapters, but I pack them all with me, you know. And I used to go wireless with my music, and eventually decided that with one show I was losing signal, and never did it again. I use wireless microphone, but I won't use a wireless relay system for my music.
Yeah, I know there's various Bluetooth systems out there, and yeah, the quality of them, the further away you get from that receiver, can just be, you just want it to work and sound right. That's so important. So as well as performing, I see on your website as well that you also have an online course as well. So you teach stage hypnosis as well now. So I'll just put the link up on the bottom of the screen there as well. So if anyone's interested in training with Barry or taking Barry's course as well, it's barryjones.com. And it's a great looking course. One thing I will do is we've got a clip. I took the clip off YouTube. The second clip you sent to me earlier. It didn't quite work, but I've got the one. I've got one that I think is a similar one. You uploaded it a couple of days ago. Now I really like this because there's a lot of people that kind of go, especially the hypnotherapist. The hypnotherapist will hate this one. When you talk about stage hypnosis, it's always about will you make me think that I'm a chicken? And I love that routine, and I play to that routine because it's people's expectations, and it's a guaranteed laugh, like a guaranteed laugh. And that clip that we've got is a section of that, but you've got a little twist on it.
Yeah, I do simple things and I add stuff in.
Yeah. So I'm going to play that clip now, and then I shall see you on the other side.
Okay.
Come here. And on the count of three, push your leg out. 1, 2, 3, push. One last push. Pick it up. Pick up the leg. I'm not surprised you guys are here. It's okay, don't sit down. I understand. Move to the side, please. Move to the side. Bring the chair up. Bring the chair up. Bring the chair up. Come here. I understand that your eggs are grass-fed eggs, okay? All good nutritious. Now the problem is we've got a problem down here because you see the guy at the end there? That's the shop owner down there, and he's putting your eggs next to those chickens that are fed with steroids and that horrible stuff. You are not happy. You will go down to him in chicken movements, chicken noises, and you will give him a few pecks and let him know that you are not happy. Alright, come on. Chicken noises.
Great. No, it's I don't know what it is. The chicken stuff. It's so iconic with stage hypnosis, and it's just funny. And I know a lot of guys are, especially at the moment, there's a lot of guys that are big on like, no, you've got to be original. But I think you take a routine like that and you do like you do, and you make it your own, and you add your own little bits to it. It just makes it funny. It was a great clip as well.
Yeah.
So Alana Jennings says it sounds like it was a big crowd. The schools are huge out there, aren't they? So what what kind of size audiences do you get at high schools in the US?
You're probably your average size is probably three to 400 kids.
Nice.
So yeah, it's an extreme tour because you don't start till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it's exhausting.
Wow.
And if you're doing, you come on as the last entertainer. They lock the kids in. They call it safe and sober grad night. And the idea is that it keeps the kids off the road when they graduate. So they take them to a venue, lock them in, and not literally lock them in, but they have parents there to make sure that they don't go out. And they have food and they have entertainment throughout the night. And then the last person that comes on typically is the hypnotist. So you come on from 3 till 4 in the morning, then they give the kids breakfast, and then they bus the kids back home. And then you do it the next night, and so it's night after night after night after night. And sometimes you're doing 2 shows a night. I'll do one at.
I was going to say, yeah. Can you piggyback that? So you've got a show at like maybe midnight, and then one at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Nice. That's yeah. That could be quite a good little money maker.
Oh yeah, really. I stopped doing two shows a night though. It was just too hard for me. I got a couple of speeding tickets, and it was just dangerous because I was trying to make sure I got to the next event that was an hour away, and it's just too hard.
Yeah.
So,
and that's when you're a jobbing hypnotist, when you're on the road, that's the issues you face, the logistics of not wanting to turn work down, but by the same job, making sure that you do a good job at both and you're safe as well. But
what I started to do was I'd hire other hypnotists to work for me. Actually, one in particular who's from New Zealand, and he would cover my overload. So I would still get a percentage, and I had my regular show as well. So
nice. So where do you see stage hypnosis or performance hypnosis going kind of post-COVID? COVID's finished in the next 5 years. With the introduction, I see these guys now on TikTok and YouTube and kind of social platforms doing lots of street stuff and tiny just skits rather than stage shows. Do you see that becoming more popular? Or where do you see the future of stage hypnosis going?
I got to be honest with you. I think we're going to struggle in the future. And I think for a number, I'm not being pessimistic. I think that people in the States are not going to have the money to pay for this type of entertainment.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the first thing that's going to hit the grad night market. We're high-priced items for grad night, and they can get a lot more for their money. And if they're going to have a grad night, probably one of the things they're going to cut out is the hypnotist. They'll put that towards food or cheaper entertainment. So I think that's where we're going to see it being hit first.
I must admit, I was talking with another hypnotist this afternoon about a very similar thing. And the problem, I think, coming out of COVID, there'll be a lot of people that will kind of go out for whatever price they can get.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that the price drives the market, and it will be such a shame to see that happen, if you know what I mean, because you'll have lesser quality hypnotists going out for a lesser fee, and then it just sends everything over. So hopefully that's not going to be the case. But like you said, it's we've got to be realistic about this, and going forward, entertainment is always seen as a bit of a last kind of option.
Yeah, and it's also happened in the US over the past 5 or 6 years, or I would say the past probably 5 to 10 years, that everybody and the grandmother is going out and teaching stage hypnosis. So we've got all of these rookies going out there with no experience and they will do a show for next to nothing just to get the stage time. And sadly, you know, they've got to get, I'm not condemning them. I condemn more of the teachers for getting out there and training all these people and having them go out with no experience. But it really impacts our industry, because if they do a bad job, which in most cases they're going to do in their first couple of shows, then people are not going to they're not going to hire a hypnotist again. And
I think my bugbear, and it very much touches on that point. It's like, it's knowing the market, and a lot of hypnotists are told to go out there and say, if you say you're the world's best hypnotist and the world's fastest hypnotist and you're the world's this, then people will believe that, and then you'll get the bookings. But the problem is then a corporate client comes to that person and says, I'd like to book you because you bill yourself as the world's greatest hypnotist. And that particular person, that act, who is not ready for a corporate booking, takes that job, takes the money at a reduced fee, and then the client is left with a low quality, low budget performance. And in their mind, if that's the quality that you expect from the world's best, then I don't want anything else.
Right.
And I think there should be a responsibility of kind of like, you know, I mean, you're very similar to me, but, you know, when you first start out, you've got to earn your stripes as such. You've got to do the smaller venues with the smaller crowds that are harder. You know, in the UK, very much the working men's clubs and the pubs can be tough markets, but they're a great way to teach you your stagecraft. And then you build up to booking theatres and corporate shows and cruise lines and that type of thing. So I don't think someone can do a weekend course in stage hypnosis and then go book a show for Sony and then expect that to deliver good results. So yeah, I think the trainers, you know, need to take more responsibility, rather than thinking, oh, if that person's got the fee, then I'll take that fee off them and then teach them stage hypnosis. So yeah, but that's a whole different topic.
And I'm not actually blaming the trainers, and I'm not blaming the students for going out and doing it. It's just a fact of life. It's just what people will do. You know, someone's gone and paid $1,500 to do a stage hypnosis course. They want to get the money back.
Yeah.
And so if they can get $500 for a regular $1,500 gig, they're gonna take it.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't blame them, and I'm not going to criticize them. It's business is business.
One thing I'm very pleased about, especially in the UK, is we don't have gig masters or gig salad,
Right.
Which plays a big part in the American market. Do you have any experiences with that website?
Never touch them.
Yeah.
Touch them.
It does seem to be that is very much a driving force of lowering the price and quality of not just stage hypnosis, but of a lot of entertainment. And I know a couple of companies keep trying to create something like that here in the UK, but touch wood, at this moment in time, that's not happened. So, but yeah, it becomes a bidding war on who can do the lowest price show, which is never a good thing.
No. And you're going to get people on there that will, you know, they've done 50 or 60 shows. And for them, if they're doing large numbers of shows and making a little bit of money, you know, they're okay with that.
Yeah.
That's just a business model that they have adapted, and they're okay with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are eventually going to find their niche, and people know how much I charge. So when they call up, they know this is what it's going to cost them.
Yeah.
It isn't a matter of the cost. This is what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And they know that what they're going to get because they've seen me in the past. And this is the standard that they feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
But
Lana Jennings just said something very similar, that venues will want to support artists and pay what you're worth to keep the quality high. When you're out there doing shows, people get to see your show, and it's a great way of kind of promoting the next show, if you know what I mean. So yeah. So, but you know, we all see these things, the criticisms of people undercutting.
it's never been any different.
No,
in
no.
any industry. So,
well, yeah. So, if you were to give one tip, one nugget of advice that you've picked up along the years, that you would give to either yourself as a kind of a budding stage hypnotist, or to any hypnotherapist that's looking at moving into performance for demonstrations, or for any stage hypnotists that are watching this, if you could give them one golden nugget tip of advice, what would it be?
you need a good video.
Yes.
That's the most important thing. So if I remembered when I first started out, I hired professional videographers, and I spent a good chunk of money on getting my first video put together. And that process did not stop for about 2 to 3 years, where I hired professional videographers and sound people as well. So spend the money, especially when you've got a good event coming up, a corporate event, get great footage. Because you're going to be competing with every other Tom, Dick, and Harry there. And if you've got a better video, in most cases, you're going to get the gig. Yeah,
absolutely. Golden piece of advice, that, especially with what video costs to produce now.
Yes.
To have bad video is no excuse. I think Anthony Gailey, a thing I went to his a few years ago, said if you want to be booked as a $10,000 speaker, then on your video reel you have to look like a $10,000 speaker. And it always amazes me, especially within the stage hypnosis community in the UK, when you see guys pushing for corporate shows, and their video reel shows them in the back room of pubs. And it's like you know, that's a £200 show, and you're trying to pitch for a £2,000 show. There's no mix. So, but to be fair, if there's any British hypnotists watching, don't listen to that advice. Stay with crappy video. You don't need high definition.
yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, if I always tell people, what's your market? If you're going to market a corporate event and you're going to show a pub video, you're not going to get the gig. Start at the top with a quality video at a corporate event, because that corporate event will get you into the door of anything else, high schools, universities, etc., other corporations. So, dress nicely. And one thing I didn't do for many, many years was I just wore a nice shirt and a nice pair of dress pants. It was a lot later that I really went with a suit. And I think it's important. It's one of the things. I mean, I have 3 shows for the 3 different markets I target. Each one has its own outfit as such. And it's important that I don't say you turn up in a cloak with a spiral medallion, but it's important that you look like exactly like you need to look like a $10,000 speaker. You need to look like you know what you're doing. So that's great advice. I always ask guests for book recommendations, 1 or 2 books that have either influenced you in business when it comes to stage hypnosis, or a stage hypnosis book that you think is a go-to for you. I've never, to be honest with you, I've never read a stage hypnosis book. So I can't give you any advice there. If I'm going to go with the clinical, then it would be this one. And this is my Bible for all my clinical stuff. I've never really used any of these, but I enjoy seeing the language that other hypnotists use. And I think a lot of these people are in their head too much, and probably a little bit too intellectual, and the words probably would not sink in nicely as easier words would use. And that's exactly the same with doing your inductions. The simpler you can make it, keep it simple, stupid. So that is the book that I would recommend. I There is a book that's a Bible of hypnosis, and I'm not quite sure who it's by. You'll probably know it. I've heard it's really, really good, but I don't know.
It's a weird one. It's probably the most recognized stage hypnosis book. And from speaking to other kind of hypnotists at the top of their game, they all kind of say the same thing. They all say, if you're going to have a one book on stage hypnosis, it's got to be Ormond McGill's Encyclopedia of Stage Hypnosis. And they always kind of say, you read it first, when you're new, and then when you come back to it years later, you read it again, and it's so different, and it's so far from what is real, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So it's a great book, but it's not. When you look back at it from performing after a while, you see it's written on an intellectual level rather than a performance level, if you know what I mean. Yeah. The textbook of hypnosis rather than in an audience where someone's shouting something at you from the side of the stage.
Yeah. Well, where do you see hypnosis in this country being in a year's time?
I think, unfortunately, I think we are going to see more of the YouTube/TikTok style stuff, and which is why I try and push performance hypnosis, because I mean, you know that a stage hypnosis show needs to be on a stage. Yeah. It needs the audience for that reaction. Yeah. I don't think stage hypnosis translates too well onto television. Yeah. You know, it did in the 90s because it was new, but I don't think it translates well on TV. The street stuff, and there's a couple of guys on TikTok and YouTube that are getting quite a big following, but I think that's more of a marketing side of things. I don't know how that will be monetized. And I don't know how people will translate from seeing a 15-second TikTok video of somebody's hands stuck together or them forgetting their name, how that will translate into stage performance.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The optimist in me will kind of say that people will look for something that will inspire them, and if we do it right, that's what stage hypnosis can be. We're not just singers, we're not just comedians, we're an entertainment that can actually make people think. Yeah. But the pessimist in me says, unfortunately, because of people, where the financial markets are going to be over the next couple of years, there'll be a lot of people trying to earn quick money from stage hypnosis. And I think that will have a really negative effect on it. So I think we're in for maybe 3 to 5 years before we get back to somewhere normal for what we do.
I think you're realistic there. 3 to 5, yeah.
Yeah, which is it's a killer, if you know what I mean. You know, I was before lockdown. I was in a very good place. You know, working a lot and doing good quality shows. And it's you know, to see, and you're the same as well, to see that those diary entries kind of disappearing, you know, people's confidence need to be built back up again now. So yeah, you know, it's up to me and other performers to kind of help build that confidence up. So fingers crossed that they do it the right way.
I do as well. I mean, I'm booked for May and June, but I'm not optimistic about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So yeah, great point here that Natasha Stanley's just said. She says maybe TikTok will introduce the younger generation to hypnosis, like in America, and make them more open to it. Hopefully so. I mean, I get it. I'm sure you do, especially in the UK. You go to a venue and who's seen a stage hypnosis show before? You know, there's a whole generation of people now that don't know what hypnosis is. Right. The closest thing they've ever experienced to it is Derren Brown. Wow. So if the TikTok generation can then introduce people to this type of thing, then yeah, maybe it's a good thing.
I mean, it's all good stuff. It's all good publicity. So, and you know, the audiences in Ireland, though, you know, I'll ask them how many people have seen a stage show. Nobody's seen one. Hardly anybody in Ireland seen a stage show. Wow. So, yeah.
And they're so much further ahead than what we are at the moment, yes. I think, on the popularity of hypnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, Lana Jane says, a lot of Brits think you're magicians with mind control powers. Yes, well, that's what we are. Yeah, I mean, there's another hypnotist who always kind of says, don't give away your power. People assume when you walk on that stage that you've got this power.
Right.
Harness that and use it, and it's a great point. Is that?
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah.
Are these all regular people that you know?
We have a couple of regulars and a couple of new people, so they pop in and out as well. And what we'll do is this will go on YouTube probably tomorrow, with the link to the book up as well and links back to your website. So yeah,
perfect.
So yeah, someone's just saying, can we pull a rabbit out of a hat? No. I must admit, it's one of those things. I don't do magic or mentalism. I know a lot of hypnotists do, but for me, I think I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to the hypnosis side of things. And I think not that there's anything wrong with it, but some people, when they mix magic and hypnosis, I believe the perception from the audience's side is that then hypnosis is some kind of trick, some kind of magic thing. So I do try and keep them separate.
Well, you get 90% of hypnotists in America started off as magicians, transferred to hypnosis. I work with a lot of them on the fair, and a lot of them thought, there's more money in hypnosis, so they decided to add hypnosis into their repertoire.
Yeah,
but a lot of them you'll find all had magic backgrounds.
I think magic. If you've got a history in magic, it you learn the patter. And about outs and kind of, how you can direct their attention. So I think it's a good skill set to have going into the hypnosis world.
Yes.
But yeah, brilliant.
And any way that you can be on stage. And one of the questions you asked me earlier on was, what helped me? Well, me teaching at university for 12 years, being in front of people on a daily basis and coaching, it was easy for me to be on stage.
Yeah.
So,
I kind of say to some hypnotherapists, that's your stage. Your therapy room is your stage. When you're teaching, that's your stage.
Yeah.
It's all putting in that delivery and the performance. So brilliant. Well, Barrett, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. And after all these years, we've chatted backwards and forwards via email, but never.
Exactly. So it's nice to actually see you. Whereabouts in the UK are you at the moment?
Devon.
Oh,
yeah.
I was in Devon a couple of 2-3 weeks ago actually. So the next time I'm down that part of the world, we should grab a coffee.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right,
guys.
Thank
please check out barryjones.com, and we shall see you next week.
All right.
See you guys.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.